Lightsabers are easily the most recognizable part of Star Wars. Obi-Wan introduced the weapons to Luke Skywalker and explained their significance in A New Hope. Later in the movie, Obi-Wan used his saber to dismember a thug in the Mos Eisley Cantina and fight against Darth Vader on the Death Star. After that, the lightsaber quickly became a mainstay in the franchise. Luke used the Skywalker Legacy lightsaber in The Empire Strikes Back and constructed his own weapon in Return of the Jedi. Since then, lightsaber lore has ballooned. Certain lightsabers are synonymous with specific Jedi or Sith, and different blade colors mean different things. It's also a rite of passage for up-and-coming Force users to find a living kyber crystal and construct a lightsaber. With all of that in mind, it's particularly important whenever an experienced Jedi or Sith chooses to build a new lightsaber. Because it's not just building a weapon, it's building something that acts like a conduit and connects the user to the Force in new and important ways. Ezra Bridger is one Jedi that has had multiple lightsabers, and each one represents growth in different parts of his life. So let's take a look at Ezra's lightsabers. We'll see when and why he constructed each of them, but more importantly, we'll see how each lightsaber represents Ezra at a different part of his life. There's a lot of good Star Wars, but animation is always some of the best. Fans love seeing Jedi in the Clone Wars and connecting with them on intimate levels. When that series ended, fans were disappointed, but Star Wars Rebels promised to be a worthy follow-up. The series was supposed to take the focus off of the Jedi and zoom in on the early days of the Rebel Alliance. However, it wasn't a surprise a pair of Jedi had a place in the story. Kanan Jarrus was one of the series' main characters. Fans quickly learned that he was a former Jedi Padawan, and it didn't take long for him to take an apprentice of his own. That Padawan was Ezra Bridger. Bridger was born in 19 BBY on the planet Lothal. Shortly after his birth, his parents began working against the Empire, and eventually they set up a public broadcast that spoke out against the Empire. They did good work, but the Empire caught on. In 12 BBY, they were taken into Imperial custody, leaving a young Ezra on his own for the better part of a decade. That's when Kanan and the rest of the Ghost crew found him working as a con artist and thief. Seeing his Force potential, Kanan decided to let Ezra join their crew. Because of his own unfinished training, Kanan was wary of training Ezra, but he was determined to follow the will of the Force, so he did his best. During one of their training sessions, Kanan told Ezra to let the Force flow through him, and in doing so, Ezra was able to find a Jedi temple on Lothal. Inside, Ezra faced visions of the Grand Inquisitor and spoke with the voice of Master Yoda. Along the way, he was able to overcome his shortcomings by confronting his fear of abandonment and lack of faith in himself. At the end of their conversation, Ezra found a blue kyber crystal. Using his newfound kyber crystal, Ezra set to work on building his first lightsaber. When he presented the final product, it was unlike anything that fans had ever seen. It was a lightsaber blaster hybrid. While it functioned like a normal lightsaber, an extended handguard housed a stun blaster. Functionally, he added the blaster element because he was ill-practiced at deflecting enemy blaster fire. So using his clever addition, he was able to fight against blaster-wielding opponents. When Kanan first saw the weapon, he noted that it was certainly different and commented on how he should have expected something unique from Ezra. The thing is, Kanan was exactly right, because Ezra's lightsaber was an extension of his personality. He designed the weapon using tech that his friends had on the Ghost, and it's no shock that he was able to build it with less than ideal supplies. After all, he spent much of his early life stealing technology, modifying it, and reselling it on the black market. So he was pretty skilled with his hands, and he knew exactly what he wanted. Additionally, from a lore standpoint, the Blue Blade designated him as a Jedi Guardian. Although it's kind of a Legends thing now, Jedi Guardians were Jedi who were more than willing to use their lightsabers in fights that defended their beliefs or served the people they cared about. And just like them, Ezra was eager to use his lightsaber in aggressive negotiations. So overall, Ezra's blue lightsaber represents his drive, his will to survive, and his passion to fight for other people. Ezra used his blue lightsaber for a few years, but eventually it was destroyed. During Season 2's Twilight of the Apprentice episode, Ahsoka, Ezra, and Kanan went to Malachor. There, they found an ancient Sith temple, fought with Inquisitors, and encountered Maul. To cap it off, Darth Vader showed up to claim the temple's power for his master. Ezra briefly tried to fend off the Dark Lord, but he couldn't match Vader's dueling skills. It was mere moments before Vader slashed through his lightsaber, rendering it useless. Ahsoka intervened and saved his life, but Ezra still needed a new lightsaber after they escaped. There was a time jump before Season 3, and Ezra had built a new lightsaber when the new season premiered. His second lightsaber was a lot different than his first, and it showed his growth as a Force user. For starters, the blade wasn't blue, it was green. In Legends continuity, that would have made him into a Jedi consular, which would have placed his focus on the Force rather than combat. That's not to say that Ezra stopped fighting, but his character development focused on his growth as a Force user. He was becoming more and more powerful, and he was drifting ever closer to the dark side as Maul asserted his dark influences on the Jedi in training. Eventually, with the help of Obi-Wan Kenobi, he was able to shirk the influence of Maul and grow toward the light. The design of Ezra's green lightsaber also represents his status as a character. It had an industrial, utilitarian look, and it looked like the weapon of a smuggler. In some ways, it mimicked the style of Kanan's lightsaber, but in other ways, it was similar to the lightsabers of the original trilogy. Thus, in some ways, he was bridging the gap between the two eras. In Star Wars Rebels series finale, Ezra sacrificed himself to save Lothal. He snuck onto Thrawn's Star Destroyer and called a pot of Purgle to take them all far, far away. But before he left, he gave his green lightsaber to Sabine Wren, who would use it in her own unexpected Jedi training. A decade later, Sabine and Ahsoka found Ezra in a whole new galaxy on the planet of Peridea. Sabine tried to return Ezra's lightsaber to him, but he refused. For a while, he fought with some Force-enhanced karate, but before the series' final confrontation, he built his third lightsaber. Ezra's third lightsaber was blue, just like his first, and it represented his return to action. Retaking the status of Guardian, Ezra was more than willing to help Ahsoka and Sabine in their fight against Thrawn and his minions. He was also eager to get back to the Star Wars galaxy and rejoin the fight against Thrawn and the Imperial Remnant. In fact, some fans think that Ezra will become the canon version of Luke Skywalker in Dave Filoni's upcoming Heir to the Empire movie. But it wasn't just the blue blade that was significant. The hilt on Ezra's third lightsaber was a direct homage to his master, Kanan Jarrus. The droid Huyang actually said that the blade emitter was an exact copy of Kanan's that he had kept in case Kanan ever needed it. The way that Ezra directly homaged his master was proof of his change of attitude. In the early days of his training, he despised formalized instruction and wanted to do things his way. However, his time on Peridea had given him perspective and maturity. He was finally willing to grow as a Jedi, not just in his command of the Force. But what do you think? Which one of Ezra's lightsabers do you like best? Which one best represents him as a Jedi, and how will he fit into the future of Star Wars? Let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more Star Wars content, and I'll see you in the next video.